way. So we're starting on page 10, which was technically your homework. I would like you to do Plattsburgh. We stopped there, right? Nobody did Plattsburgh. Before we even go over the rest, let's start by doing another one to make sure you remember what's going on. So one thing, Plattsburgh is over here. So in the upper left hand, or nope, that's the upper right hand corner of New York State. I want the latitude in a whole degree and then add the minutes. And then same with the longitude, whole degree and minutes. So I'll give you a minute to try that out first. I'll come around if anybody needs some assistance. Plattsburgh again, way up here, upper right-hand corner. Start with the whole degree for Plattsburgh and then add the minutes. Attitude first, yeah. Or go ahead, you can do longitude once you're there. Good. I'm excited you guys are remembering what we're doing here. So let's do the longitude and latitude first, so you can see that 44 is here, 40 latitude. Prior to me teaching you anything about this, you'd probably call that for what would you call it? 44. You had to ask. This is 44 and that's 45. No, 43 is anyway. No, 46 is anyway. So we'll go 40. Everyone right there. 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, so they're in between 43 and 40. Or especially between 44 and 45, so 44 something. And that is how you would do it if you did learn the real way to do it. So there's 60 seconds between here and there's like 60 minutes. I think she did it here. Instead of doing it for the fractions, you have to do minutes. So that halfway mark is right there. So what's happening is you're this mark is 30. So we have to go to 30 to 60 here. That was 30. Did you get the close enough? Because the bunch of yeah, either one of us first here. Guys, I'm loving it. It looks like a lot of you remember how this works. So just a quick refresher course. So we always start with the whole number. So Plattsburgh was between 44 and 45. So Plattsburgh, and I think I saw all of you with this, is 44 degrees is the whole number. And then we have to add how many minutes there are to get to Plattsburgh. Keeping in mind there's 60 minutes between each line. They do mark off the halfway mark at each one of these. So they are, the halfway marks are labeled. So you can see we're still a little bit higher up, a little bit more north of 30 minutes. What did you guys want to estimate this as if this was 30 and it starts over again when we get up here at 60? 40? Yeah, 40, 45, anything around there would work for me. And remember, this is in New York State, so that's north. Yeah.
For the gens, like how many degrees are we allowed to be with it?
Usually about 10. So that should be pretty close. So you can definitely tell the halfway mark and then just decide, are you closer or farther away from the half?
And we're gonna have this whole like thing on our region.
Yep, you get this whole entire packet. The only bad news is it's blank. Well, like none of your lines will be on there. So you have to get a brand spanking new one, which you're always allowed to add anything onto your reference table as soon as you sit down in the during the regents. So if you want to add lines, you can add lines. You might not need to. It's always hard to say. You might want to add them when you get to that question.
But any notes that we take on this reference table, you can always add to it. Okay. I saw a bunch of you had already done longitude, which made sense because I'd asked you to do the same thing. Again, it works the same way. There is a whole number. So we got 73 here, 74. So we're in between 73 and 74. I hope you notice that the numbers get bigger as you go. This time it's from the right to the left, but it's a little awkward. So we're 73 degrees would be your whole number. And the halfway marks again are labeled. So there's a halfway. And if you had used your ruler or a straight edge, you would have definitely saw that Plattsburgh was just a teeny bit to the right of the halfway mark. So how many minutes do you want to mark that off as then for Plattsburgh's longitude? If this is the halfway mark right there. 28 works, 25 works, something. Make sure you went smaller than 30 though. And New York is always west. Issues, comments, or concerns with any of that? Let's check your work from Friday then, just to make sure we were doing the right thing on Friday. I got 43.55 for Watertown. So just like Blakely was asking, as long as you're within 10 seconds of that, 10 minutes of that. So they could be, however, I take that back because they wouldn't have accepted 44, even though that's 5 minutes, because Watertown is definitely a little bit below the 44 line. Did everybody, or did you guys say it was on the 44? No. Okay. So you 10 minutes within like sometimes there's some no 10 minutes because that one would not count. And same with the longitude, 75 degrees, 55 minutes west. If you said 50 or 45, that's still good enough as well. But again, not 76 because Watertown is just a teeny tiny bit east of the 76 line. We did Buffalo together, 40 to 50. And I had 78 degrees, 50. Again, as long as you're within 10 seconds, you're fine. Elmira, 42 degrees. I said 5 minutes north and 76 degrees, 50 minutes west. You guys all good with that so far? Any you want to go over, change, look at? Yeah, what do you got, John?
For Buffalo, I put 41. I put 41.55 for latitude.
That's way wrong. 41 is down here. 42 is up here.
Oh.
So 41.50, would you say 55 would be down a little bit below the 42 line. So you went the wrong way. So just carefully check to make sure I'm in between. Buffalo is clearly between 42 and 43. So that is always where I start. So slide mount doesn't count because slide mount I got right on my 42 line. 42 degrees, 0 minutes. And yes, technically you would have needed the 0 minutes because the directions did tell you to include minutes. And then 74 degrees, 25 minutes west. But what I was just about to say, so for Mount Marcy, again, I always start, here's 44, here's 45. So Mount Marcy is clearly in between. So I start with the number 44. I start there so I don't have to think about it again. And then I can see that Mount Marcy is just a tiny bit above. So I did say for Mount Marcy, I went with 5 minutes north. And 73, no, I did. Yes. I went right with 74 originally. Again, with 0 minutes west. Depending on how you drew your line, some of you might have had it a little bit after or a little bit before the line. Mine was right on the line. So it's up to you how you had your line drawn there. And the last one you had to do for homework was Messina. I went with 44 degrees, 59 minutes north because it was not quite at the 45 line, and 74.50. Do we need to do Riverhead? You guys got the minutes? Okay, I do want to do, I'll put it here so you have it. 40 degrees, 50 minutes north. And I went with 72 degrees, 30 minutes west. I do want to talk about the mouth of the Niagara, but I'm going to use this as a teaching moment, not a review moment, okay? So go out of your homework, going over homework brain and into your learning new stuff brain, okay? Do you guys know what the mouth of the Niagara even is? So that's why we need to learn. So first of all, we know what the Niagara River is though, right? Can you guys locate the Niagara River, please, on your reference table on page 3? It's there. Do we know where it's near to start off with? Yeah, it's near Niagara Falls. So Niagara Falls is labeled. And by the way, this is Niagara Falls, the city, not technically Niagara Falls, the falls. They are in the same spot, but so this is Niagara River is located over here. The Niagara River connects our two Great Lakes, Lake Erie and Lake Ontario. It is right, the mouth of the Niagara is, no, let me rephrase that. We have to figure out where the mouth of the Niagara is. Do you guys know what end of the river a mouth is? Is it the beginning or the end? Okay, so we don't know.
Beginning.
It's actually the end.
Oh.
How rivers work, and maybe you guys haven't been taught this. I'm just now remembering that you guys lost half of 6th grade and your 7th grade year was a little crappy. That might have been where you guys learned. Remember how when I talked about at the beginning of the year, like you guys didn't know a lot about maps? I'm guessing that was when you were supposed to learn about maps. It just clicked with me when I was home this weekend. I'm like, oh yeah, they're not remembering because they probably didn't learn. But so here's your learning moment. Rivers are like words. P.S. Public service announcement also, by the way. Where do words start or where should they start?
Mouth.
Problem. They should start at your brain.
Clearly my
Okay.
stem from my
Yes. This is why I said it's a public service announcement because teenagers and humans in general sometimes forget we're supposed to think before we speak. Okay. But yes, you're supposed to. Yep. So words start in your head. And where do they come out of? Your mouth. Rivers are the same way. Rivers start in the head and go out the mouth. So the head of a river, if you've ever heard of the headwaters, that's how they describe it sometimes. That's the beginning of a river. The mouth is where it empties into something else. So in this case, it's going to empty into one of the Great Lakes. So we are really looking for, so when I say the mouth of the Niagara, I'm really looking for the end of the Niagara River, not the beginning. So that is a vocab word you do need to know. Mouth of a river is the end of a river. This map has a hint on it about which end of the river. Is it the Lake Erie end or the Lake Ontario end is the end of the river? Now, hang on, let me talk about it for a second. Do you guys know which way the Niagara River flows?
Nope.
Do you know which way any river flows?
Nope. Not unless a minute.
Not unless you're in it. Good point. Yeah, me neither. But I can say that all rivers flow. What can I say? North, south? No. What'd you say?
Down.
Down. The only generalization you can ever use about a river and the way it goes.
Because the head went down.
Yeah. Starts at the head. You know, I've never used that analogy. That might be a little bit easier to. How it starts at the head and goes out the mouth, down and out. That makes more sense. Moving on. Anyway, you can only ever say all rivers flow down. Now, what do you mean by down though? Point down. Down. That's what I mean by down. Downhill. All rivers flow downhill. There are no rivers that can go up a hill. Rivers can only flow downhill. So you can't ever say all rivers flow north. You can't say they all flow south, east, or west. But you can say all rivers flow downhill. Take a look at page 3 of your reference table and find the hint that tells you which way is downhill. Few of you look like you've already found it, but search that reference table to see which way downhill is going to be. I'm seeing a few of you circling it. Did you find it? What is it, Jasmine? What's your hint? The words, what words? That's not coming yet. No, that's not the hint. Did you find it, Trinity? Trinity, what's the hint on here?
The elevation of 2 lakes.
Take a moment and circle the elevation of the 2 lakes. Elevation means how high the location is above sea level. So you can see that Lake Erie is 100 meters higher in the sky than Lake Ontario. So which way is downhill for this river? North, south, east, or west? North. The Niagara River flows from Lake Erie at an elevation of 175. It gets lower, lower, lower until it hits Niagara Falls, and then it's got a real big drop. And then it keeps going downhill until it hits Lake Ontario. It's the only river that's on here that we can officially say that that is downhill from this map. The only 2 elevations listed, I don't know why they picked only those 2, but it does tell you then which way the river's flowing. So the Niagara River flows from Lake Erie to Lake Ontario. So the mouth of the Niagara is right there, right where the land hits the lake. Now that you know that, let's pretend this is a Regents question. So take your time. Determine the latitude and longitude of the mouth of the Niagara using degrees and minutes. If you didn't notice, they do mark off the halfway marks. So there's these plus signs in Lake Ontario. The flat part of the plus sign, that's the halfway mark for latitude. And then the vertical part of the plus sign, that's the halfway mark. Oh, actually, it's not the halfway mark. That is the 79 for that one. But this one is the halfway mark for 78. So get both the latitude and the longitude, please. Anybody want me to help them? So for latitude, what's our whole number?
43.
Yeah, because here's 43. Here's the 44 line. So we're in between 43 and 44. So the whole number will be 43 degrees. How many minutes did you give it? Considering that this is the halfway mark, this is the 30. How many minutes do you want to call?
15.
Looks like 15 to me. If you went with 20 or 10, that's fine too. So I'm going with 15 minutes, north, south, east, or west. By the way, why were these all north? Yep. New York State, which is right around the Great Lakes there. All of North America, for that matter, is north of the equator. As long as we're at it, we are also in here in New York. And again, all of North America is west of the prime meridian. So that's why all of these are in west. As for longitude, when I line up my 79 marks, the way I have it written, that dot is just a teeny tiny bit to the left of the 79. So I did go 79 degrees 1 minute west, but if you said it was right on the 79, I'm fine with that. I don't think it was to the right, at least not on mine. Was it on yours, the way you had your lines drawn? You might have. Okay, so to the left would be 79 something. Left. This way.
Wait.
Wait.
If you go left, wouldn't it be 80? So you go
Well, 80, the 80 mark's going to be somewhere over here. So we're 70, we're in between 79 and 80.
sense.
Oh, thank you. It's all done?
Yeah.
Perfect, thanks. Good? Decent, at least? Annoying? Are you okay with it if I promise to only give you like 1? Not 10? Okay. We're not doing this. We'll just get to that when we get to that. We're not going to worry about that last map of the world. All right, we are going to jump a little ahead in our packet just because that took most of my classes a little longer than I was hoping. It actually took about the same amount for you guys. So we will come back to this page and this page and this page. I want to start with, we're going to be doing pages 16 and 17 right now. 16 does not have a number on it. So it's this one right here if you want to add to it. Do you guys know these words from, again, like 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade? Know what a mountain, a plateau, a plain, and a valley are? At least in general? Perfect. Let me just give you the official earth science definition. So we just need to do the vocab definitions for these 4 vocab words. We're going to start with a mountain. And a lot of people tell me mountains are tall. In earth science, we say this has a high relief. Relief just means high elevation. Page 16, if you don't know where we are. Mountains have distorted rock structure, which we'll get a little bit more in depth in what that means when we talk about rocks. But what does distorted mean?
Old.
If you distort something. Yeah, messed up. Ruined. So this goes along with how mountains form. Do you guys know how mountains form in general? Could you guys use your hands to show me how mountains form? Okay, plates. We got the plates. You guys remember plate tectonics? If they move together, they smush into each other so hard that mountains form. Can you imagine how much pressure that is on the rocks? If there's so much pressure, it's able to pop a mountain up. There's a lot of pressure, and that pressure is going to mess up the rocks. So rocks have messed up rock layers. That's what that means, distorted structure. Yeah.
I thought the mountains work with like glaciers or something, or like ice or water.
Volcanoes.
There's volcanoes, so you can also have volcanoes that make mountains. But glaciers just shape the way the mountains kind of look, but they don't make the mountain. They can make some hills, which this is we're talking about chapters 4 and 5 right now is what you will learn all of this in detail. Lucky you, right? Okay. Now, what's the difference between a mountain and a plateau? Do you guys remember? It's flat and high, so that's the only difference. So a plateau is still a high elevation, not quite as high as a mountain. But what the difference is this one does not have messed up rock layers. So instead of both, before when you guys were doing charades, instead of 2 plates coming together and both of them popping up to make a mountain, actually, I'll wait till you guys are done writing because can't do 2 things at once. That's my fault. So just like I was saying, so before with mountains, the 2 plates hit each other and both plates pop up to form a mountain. With a plateau, what happens are those 2 plates hit and one basically slides right over the other. So it's still going to be taller than it was before they hit each other. So they're taller, but those rocks don't get messed up. They just slide nicely right over the top. So that's really just the only difference between a plateau and a mountain. You guys remember plains, right? What's a plain?
Like a flat.
big field, big flat. These are generally what we call low relief. We also call them lowlands in earth science. So they're not high. And they have gentle slopes, if any at all. So they'll have some hills on them, but those hills are way different than a mountain. They're hills, not mountains. And that's when these hills have been formed by glaciers leaving behind piles of dirt or a river taking away a pile of dirt, things like that. So not the same as a mountain. The last one's a valley. Best way to describe a valley is a dip or low-lying area between two mountains or plateaus. And then when you're done writing this, grab your reference table, page 2. All right, on page 2 of your reference table, the first thing I'm hoping you notice is this is still a map of New York. There's a lot of other things going on in the background, but you can use the key to see that there is state boundaries. There's a line and 2 dots. So here is the state boundary for New York. New York is still cut out in the background. If you notice, it's literally the same map as here, just with a lot less going on. This is called the generalized landscape regions. So the landscapes are what we were just talking about, whether it's a mountain or a plain or a plateau or a valley. So you could see the Allegheny Plateau is a huge area, the Adirondack Mountains. Maybe you've heard of the Catskills. I'd like you to add underneath the Catskills that these are Catskills mountains. Those are still considered a mountain range. The Taconic Mountains, you may or may not have heard of those. Atlantic Coastal Plain. So Long Island is one giant plain. So it's a flatland. Some of this may sound familiar, some may not. What the Regents is going to make you do is they're going to say, what landscape region, so which one of these is Buffalo in? Do you have a problem doing that? What's missing? Buffalo. Yeah, there's no cities labeled on this map, which is kind of annoying. It'd be super great if they took this map and made a clear copy of this map so that we could put it on top of this one and see exactly where Buffalo is, but that's not a choice. So we might be able to figure out Buffalo because we live here, but other places, like if I asked you about Albany or Riverhead, you might have struggle if you don't know where those places are. So what we have to do is kind of use these 2 maps together. So if you would open them up as one giant sheet, please. And I am going to attempt to move this without turning it off. So because they're the same maps, like in the background, it does make this job a little bit easier. One thing that I like to use is I use landmarks to kind of tell you where Buffalo is. Kind of like if I was to give you directions on how to get here from my house, I would talk about how you turn right onto Route 16 just at the brand new stoplight. Then I will tell somebody who's trying to get here to turn left right before Burger King. And then I tell them based on that. I don't say turn right onto 16, turn left onto 39, then turn right again on the name of the road. I just don't go by names of roads. I use landmarks. Hopefully you kind of get what I'm talking about because we're about to try that out. Buffalo. Are there any, and I know you can't see my map, so hopefully you have yours in front of you. Are there any things about Buffalo that stand out on this map that will help us put them on this map? So one really large Lake Erie. Buffalo, if you notice, is right where Lake Erie kind of comes to a point right there. Everybody see how Buffalo is at the very tip of Lake Erie? Can you find that same exact tip of Lake Erie on this map? So I can find it right about there. That's one way to do it. So one way would be to use landmarks. Another way, which only works for longitude, is that these maps, the way I have them printed, and this is one reason I have them printed like a book instead of printed like a packet, is that if you line up your ruler with Buffalo on page 3, and again, I know you can't see me do all of this at once. So Buffalo was almost to the 79-degree line. And when I line that up perfectly with my ruler, I can follow that up from page 3 to follow it up, and then voila, it's literally right there. So that's another way of doing it. Sometimes you kind of have to use both. Like I can use my ruler for longitude, but I have to use a landmark for latitude. So knowing that that's about where Buffalo is, can you tell me clearly what landscape region Buffalo's in? It is definitely it's above this black line. So it's in this section called the Erie, Ontario lowlands. Let's do another one together. Can we try Albany? So does everybody know where Albany is? It's not quite north. No, Albany is way over here. Albany, and again, I know you can't read my map, but you have your map in front of you. Albany is almost all the way. It's like middle right. And in this case, I absolutely think I need to use my ruler to line up Albany, but I can also use a landmark. So if I look just to the right of Albany, Albany is just below this little V of New York that's right here by the S of Massachusetts. See how it kind of bulges out just a tiny bit there? I can find that same bulge. Again, here's Massachusetts. Here's that bulge I was speaking of. So there's that little bulge of New York. Now, if I use my ruler to line up my longitude, find Albany. Albany looks to be Albany is almost 74 degrees longitude, just to the right a little bit. So between using your ruler and that little bulge of New York, which one do you think it's in? It's kind of messy over there. I agree. Right there appears to be the Hudson Mohawk lowlands. It is really close to the Taconic Mountains. So I do understand if you would have said that one was in the Taconic Mountains, and that's close enough, honestly. So I agree that's the Hudson Mohawk lowlands. If you haven't already noticed, Albany is the first one on your homework. It is the Hudson Mohawk, and I'm just going to abbreviate that LL, lowlands. Buffalo is also on there. That's the Erie, Ontario lowlands. Your homework is not to do all of these. That would take probably a while. We're just going to do this column, the left-hand side. So you have Binghamton, Elmira, Ithaca, Jamestown, Kingston, Messina, Mount Marcy, New York City, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and New Jersey. So I believe you have 11 more to do. You guys only have about 4 minutes, but you could probably get a decent head start on this if you want. Obviously, you need your reference table to finish this up. Again, you are just locating the landscape region for the remaining 11 cities on that side of the chart. I guess they're not all cities because Connecticut and Massachusetts are states, but I think you knew what I meant.